And welcome back, everybody, to the S.M.A.R.T Podcast. S for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive learning, R for rhythmic operation, T for a thriving community, P, of course, for performance. I'm really happy to introduce Rachel to our audience today. She has an interesting story to tell, even a more interesting background. We're going to pick a topic today and we'll dive into for the next 15 minutes. And I promise you, as always, there will be actionable takeaways for you. So stick around. Again, 15, 20 minutes. We can do it together. The topic today is about I feel like I'm in the right job in the wrong location or a combination thereof, but it just doesn't feel right. I know that Rachel feels very passionate about that. Before we get started, Rachel, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Rachel, and I am a career strategist. I help people examine and internalize and figure out if their career is in the right place, why not, and do they need to make a pivot internally, externally, what's going on?
Excellent. There's a scary statistic, especially in healthcare. Nearly 60% of the people either feel burned out or not working in the right location, in the right role. Sadly, 40 years of our lives of work, we have to go to work. We should be doing things we love to do, and we should not be afraid to pivot. But that's very, very difficult for people to do. So tell us a little bit about how you came to this topic of passion, some of maybe your personal experiences, or how your experience with your client and what you do for coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I came to this through a personal journey, as so many of us do. And I was in the startup corporate space for about 10 years, helping startups, doing marketing, operations, all kinds of things to help others grow their companies and their brand. And essentially, I went on an unexpected family planning journey to have my children. And when I did have my first child, I came back and I said, this is not what I was meant to be doing. I was meant to be doing something much deeper than this. And I sat with that, and it's a very scary feeling to say, oh my gosh, I am stuck. I have a mortgage, I have a child, I have all kinds of responsibilities, but my soul is not lit up here. In fact, it's quite drained here. And so I took a long, hard look at myself, worked with a coach, and ended up making a major pivot to become a full-time therapist. I am now a full-time private practice therapist. That's 7 years ago, basically, 6 years ago. Rebuilt my brand, myself entirely. And I realized when I did that, many people said, wait, you seem happier, you seem more fulfilled, or I'm not happy, or how did you have the courage to make the change? And that is really where the career coaching took off. It was not intentional. It is career coaching, but it's more than that. It's more about how does what you're doing day to day reflect who you are, what matters to you, what communities you want to be a part of.
Yeah, there's often a fine line between career coaching and life coaching and therapy, right? It is that, and if I'm, for myself, I'm not a therapist. I'm certainly a clinician, I have deep knowledge, but you have to draw a line to what I can, I cannot do. And I
Yes.
refer, many of my clients to spend some time with a therapist as well. I want to take a step back because I think that the word being courageous is an obstacle for many people, right? And especially because of all the pressures of the day to day, paycheck to paycheck, paying the bills, that people just don't see the forest through the trees. And so tell me what it is that you did to build the courage and what made you decide to actually get a coach, which is the right decision to make, obviously, for yourself, to make that investment in self. And then how did you pre-plan the transit, the pivot, so you didn't have all those, you fall into that valley of despair, so to speak?
Right. Well, it's so funny you asked that. I'm going to answer it a little bit differently, but I'm actually here at a university where I teach. It's where I did my clinical training for therapy, and I just finished teaching my class this morning, and I'm having everybody practice writing an informational interview request. And I'm working with 21, 22-year-olds, and I said, who's scared writing this? Every hand goes up. Right. And I said, don't worry, my 52-year-old clients are my 62-year-old clients. Right. I said, we want to lean into the discomfort and meet it where it's at and say, we can do hard things and all of those things. So welcome to the discomfort. We got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. How did I do it? I said, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I know I needed to change something. And that is one of the things I do with my clients is I really start to identify what's working well in their careers, what do they want to do more of, and what do they want to do less of. So, for example, when I was in this startup world and I said, I think I actually want to be doing deeper work with clients because I know I would sit down with one-on-one and I would actually care more about how they were doing than what they were doing or what their business was doing. I basically pitched myself as an internal coach, and I was able to do that for some time. But that wasn't really the mission of the organization. They wanted to help companies grow. And so I had a wonderful conversation with my then boss, and he said, I see you lighting up when you're doing this. We want to support you. And you never know what's going to happen until you ask. He said, I'd be happy to write your recommendation letter. This very computer I'm on right now, they gifted to me as a parting gift for following my passion. It was a very unique moment where I had what I call a full body yes, and then a full body system of support. It wasn't one day, it was happening underneath the surface for some time.
Yeah, interesting. So it is the asking the question, no different than your students, and I feel the same when I teach at Rutgers with my
Oh, you
students.
took your Rutgers?
Yeah.
That's where
So
I went undergrad.
so it is it's fun to see their resistance. Actually, the finals are today, so we'll see how they do. It's case
Yeah,
presentation, so they're all
cool.
very uncomfortable today. But I think that's maybe breakthrough, right? I mean, from discomfort comes comfort. But I think that my father taught me a lesson a long time ago. He said, "Listen, you start off with a no. If you don't ask, you stay with a no. So the worst thing that can happen is to go back to a no. But the best thing that can happen is a yes. And the thing is that it does take courage. Like Brene Brown always teaches us, you do not need to go at it alone. Now, if you cannot afford to find a coach, or you don't have a boss that is open-minded, that has an open door and has a conversation, there are plenty of peers and professional organizations and associations that you can start with. And I take a line from Alcoholics Anonymous, right? They said, when you feel your life has finally become unmanageable, maybe it's time to do something about it. And if you feel that in your career, that you're stuck in the rat wheel, and you have the Sunday evening at 5 o'clock anxiety attack because you have to go back to work on Monday morning, it's hard. But again, finances, right? That is the key. Again, too many people in America live paycheck to paycheck and don't have a fallback option itself. How would you recommend that they take finances into control and plan this out? And again, these are not things we need to do overnight, but we can certainly say we need to go on a journey. Tell me what that would look like from a financial standpoint for people.
The financial piece is huge. I can't even overemphasize it. And I do share with people that we need to get very clear on what you want to be making, what you're making now. Some people don't even know what they're making now. What you essentially, many people I work with sort of have gotten into a high income bracket and they're spending what they make, but they're actually realizing that they could live on less in many ways. Some people can't live on less, and I totally understand that. But some people come to me, I'm not happy, but I've kind of created an Amazon addiction. I'm not happy, I've created this travel addiction, whatever the case is. Not everybody's addicted, but so it's really understanding one, what do you need to be making for your lifestyle and why? What are opportunities within that range? How do you know that you might take a dip in the short term to get back up to the long term? And then how do you have a plan to do so? And to your point earlier, I was so scared. I said, am I really going to go back to school at the age of 40, basically at that time, 36 or something, and start anew? And I applied, I got like a 55% I got like 80% scholarship to school. And all of a sudden I said, oh my gosh, I could do this and I could take this opportunity. And then I had a contract role, right? So it's that expansive thinking, and it's the opportunity to actually be, when we're stuck, it's very hard to be creative. Of course it is. And that's why I encourage you to either work with a coach or a team of people. Even this morning, I had my students read read aloud their own messaging because I said, what's missing from this? What are you curious about? We can't see what we don't know. I work with a team of peers, even if I'm working for myself, because I need that kind of support. And so to answer your financial piece, it's clarity around the financials, what you need to be making, why, and then creating I call it a 5-year plan, because we don't want to make any kind of career move without a robust financial plan. I never encourage people to quit tomorrow
And
unless it's toxic or
that's the key, I think, right? That the word we need to get across, that it is never too late to pivot, but don't quit, right? Don't quit what you have. Come up with a really robust plan that takes 1, 2, 3 years. And when I refer to paycheck, the sad thing is that the lower, middle, and the upper income folks also get trapped into spending more than they make. I don't care if you make $200,000 or $300,000 a year. And the worst thing is that bonus, right? That bonus is you get in March of every year that's already spent in December the year before. And all these things are inhibitors, right? These are barriers to trying to really find true happiness. So I wanted so what are some of the action steps that somebody can take first to assess for themselves?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I don't like? Am I burned out? Is there no passion, no purpose? But how would you tell somebody who's listening to making a self-assessment to if they're in the right role for the right reasons in the right location?
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is that you get some financial clarity. I like a guy, I follow a guy, Ramit Sethi. Everybody has their own person, but I like Ramit Sethi. It's iwillteachyoutoberich.com. And he has financial budgeting plans. It's very approachable finance. And to your point, 50% of Americans have no idea what they make. Many people are spending over their budget, all kinds of things. So start to get really informed even before you think about the career piece. Well, what's going on financially for me in terms of mindset, actual numbers, partnership? Because that once you feel knowledgeable about that, then you say, oh, this is what's going on with my finances. Okay, career-wise, start to identify, I call it the internal resume. What have been your favorite moments in your career that nobody can see? And why were those your favorite moments? You started something new, you took a risk, you operationalized something, and then start to understand, you can even put it in ChatGPT if you want to, what actually is happening underneath that process. Because then you start to understand what I say skills, values, and problems you want to solve. That's what I call the reverse engineering your career. So many of us, myself included, you just kind of follow a path, pick a major, that person's hiring, I'm going to move to that city. And then all of a sudden you have bills and you have maybe children and a house. And then all of a sudden, maybe, and hopefully not, but something's out of alignment. Well, we have to start to identify what is the most out of alignment for you. Almost like you're going to a doctor and you're like, something hurts, I'm not sure what. Okay, is it your arm? Is it your leg? Like, what is it? So I want to encourage people to think about, are the skills out of alignment? Are your values out of alignment? Or are the problems that you're solving out of alignment?
And then I would encourage over top of that to ask people around you, spouses, significant others, best friends, to also make that assessment around the happiness, right? What makes me happy from their perception rather than from your reality itself. Really good point. And these are, fundamentally important pieces of the puzzle itself. Of course, people don't always succeed, right? And failure is very common. So what is one of the failure points that you have seen when you work with clients? They start on this journey of self-discovery and self-awareness and try to find alignment to their purpose and passion and people and process. Why do they fail?
Fear. I mean, the number one thing is fear. Just fear of, I'm going to make a mistake. Someone's going to see that I'm looking elsewhere. I'm going to mess up my finances. I'm going to commit one of my parents. There's so many fears, which is where I think a therapist, and I do bring that up I work on that with my clients too, to some extent. Sometimes I'll definitely outsource to another therapist, but really understand fear is a teacher. What is it teaching us? And how do we embrace it in a smaller, more manageable way? And I think really to answer your question even more specifically, the fear is it's not going to work out, or it's not going to work out as quickly as I want.
So what's the best countermeasure to that?
Consistency and accountability. Consistency, accountability. What I work on with my clients is having what I call a professional mission statement that you're working towards. And if you think about all of the companies that we know, none of them started day one where they are, of course. Right. So we have to, this is where kind of my business training comes in. And even as an entrepreneur myself, okay, well, it's not where I want it to be, but I know where I want it to go. And so for ourselves, it's having that self-confidence is really the antidote, but it's not self-confidence in sort of a, you can do it, just kind of throwaway term, which is important actually, so you have to own your space and have it be really, confident. I mean, look at what literally happens to be in this office that I'm in right now.
That's right.
Somebody left this for me
Yeah.
in the office that I'm co-sharing, and I said, thank you. Progress, not perfection, right? It actually comes from AA as well, right? So that's the piece. And one thing I would really encourage people to do is, I said the internal resume, and I do this myself, and I talk to clients about it. At the end of the day, if you move, we all want to compare ourselves to other people. And I love the answer of comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. And I say that because if you learn one more thing about yourself and where you're stuck career wise, that's one more thing you're going to start to open up and expand the next day. So, for example, I was teaching this morning and I thought, and I've been thinking, should I stay teaching? Should I not? And I was in front of the classroom. I thought, I love teaching. This is just something I want to keep doing. Actually, I want to do more of it, I think. So that kind of ongoing self-assessment.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. So I use the individual development plan, right? That something is owned by the person
Mhm.
that spells out what we call the journey. A couple that would dream big, but you need to act small in a measurable way, and only through measurement and consistent steps. And that's what my theme of the show and of the Smart app is about. In just 15 minutes a day, you too can be whoever you want to be, right? But you need to commit yourself to that 15 minutes a day. All right, the last one, and we'll close it out, is of course, ego and pride stands often in the way of progress. And one of the things that, when people start searching what they should be doing rather than what they are doing, they tend to look up, right, title wise, rather than looking at lateral or even maybe a step down. Just address that. What would you advise people to do in that case, that they have to be mindful of their pride and ego doesn't stand in the way of progress?
The ego goes on a journey. I talk about that all of the time. The ego goes on a journey, the title, the income. This is very much a self journey, but we live in, of course, the world and our communities and those kinds of things. So back to the clarity piece. I can't overemphasize it, but it's not clarity just for the sake of clarity. It's clarity for the sake of outcomes and feeling. When I left a senior director position to become an intern, I had so many reactions. I couldn't have been ready for those reactions. I tried my best. And of course, you doubt yourself and those kinds of things. When I arrived to being an intern, right, I was like, this is my place. These are my people. This is what I want to be doing. So at the end of the day, you're putting your own head on your pillow. This is going to sound quite life coachy, I think, but it is true because I could have an opinion about it. Of course, you want to honor your spouse and your closest people. You want to take that into account, but you want to feel really confident about who you're becoming. So many of us focus on our children, who our children are becoming. Well, we have to model that for them through ourselves and not just regard ourselves for the sake of our children, myself included. Um, and I talk to clients all the time. What are you modeling for your children, and how are you doing that yourself?
I think that's great advice. And sometimes I look back on it is that, when my father tried to give me advice, as a teenager, I tried to rebuke him every step of the way. Today, as a parent, I'm often more like him than not, right? But that's with some refined adjustments along the way. Listen, Rachel, this is really a good, powerful conversation. I think it's very deeply meaningful to many people, and they really need to take action in order to be able to get out of the rut and find their true passion in life while being fiscally responsible to themselves and to their families. Where can people find you?
Okay. Well, I want to give a fiscally responsible thought, which is there's a website that I recommend to a lot of clients called Never Search Alone. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a job searching support group, basically. I mean, it's more than a support group, but Never Search Alone. I send clients there if they can't work with me. They can find me at rachelspekman.com, SPEKMAN.com, or madeformorecoach.com. And I create content on LinkedIn, and I do consult calls with people. So,
Excellent. I'll make sure that is in the show notes. And a parting thought, something that you want to leave with the audience, something to ponder. Your favorite quote.
mhm. A parting thought is I don't want this to sound cynical, but it doesn't get easier. We have to get stronger.
Love it. And that takes courage and clarity. Rachel, thank you very much for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful time teaching, and listen, it's great and fun to be able to share our passions and experience with the next generation.
Thank you so much. Oh, and I have one more parting thought. Find somebody who loves their job. Find somebody who loves their job or likes their job. Surround yourself with positive people.
Love it. That is a rock solid advice, and it gets you a long ways because otherwise we get trapped in that rat wheel. So again,
really quickly.
thank you, Rachel. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.